Indian people would not share their table with the servants who were an integral part of their household. They took care of their children. They drove them everywhere. They cooked for them. But they had to eat off of separate dishes. They could not sit on the furniture. They, if, say, for example, when we left our home and we traveled, so we lived in Peter Maritzburg, we traveled to Durban on the weekends, holidays, whatever. Our maid would come with us. She was not allowed to sleep on or sit on our furniture or sleep on our furniture, so she had to sleep on the floor. These are things that all Indian people did in South Africa. And now, I'm just talking about South Africa. I'm not talking about, say, when Indian people immigrate to other countries. But this is true even in first-generation Indians. Because, say, if an Indian person had to marry a Black person, 9 times out of 10, that Indian person's family is going to completely disown the Indian person who married a Black person. Now, Indian people generally, they want Indian people to marry within they want Indian people to marry other Indian people. And then they even go into like, well, they want, the same caste, and they even have subcastes and all of this stuff. So, but if an Indian person marries a white person or say an Asian person, it's not considered to be as heinous of an act as if an Indian person married a Black person.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching me from. Welcome back to my YouTube space. There's a video here I came across it of an Indian lady talking about the anti-blackness that is in the Indian community. And when we talk about anti-blackness, we are talking about racism. We are talking about Indians, how they have been treating Black people or how they treat Black people at large. Not all Indians, but few of them, some of them. By the way, I've come across about some Indians who are racist. I've been working with the Indians. I've been working to their companies. And I know sometimes when we're working with them, the names they call you, and it's so disturbing that even some Indians can be racist to your own country. Like here in Kenya, some Indians can be racist towards you. So this is an Indian American talking about the anti-blackness within the society of Indians, and some Indians, how they treat Black people. Now, I just want you to watch this video first, and then we'll come back here and talk about it.
Hi friends, I hadn't planned on making another video right now, but Indian people are coming for me in my comments. And, so I know I'm on the right track with what I'm saying. But what I want to talk about in this specific video is Indian people and anti-Black racism specifically. So whether this is within the country of India, or whether this is when Indian people immigrate to any part of the world, whether it be on the African continent, in North America, South America, wherever, Indian people have, and again, I'm not saying every single Indian person, but I'm talking about Indian people generally, our society, our culture, the belief systems that Indian people hold, etc. Indian people are extremely, extremely racist, especially towards Black people. And if you take a Black person who has been around Indian people for any period of time, Black people pick up on this. It's something that is, this is not a secret. Whether you're talking to, say African students who study in India, which there are African students who are there, or whether you're talking about, say, Kenyans. There's a large population of Kenya that are Indian people that have immigrated to that country, or South Africa, or Canada, or, the United States, whatever. But Black people pick up on Indian people's racism because it is quite apparent. It's something that that is there. It's obvious. So I'm just going to give you an example of me, my family, and the Indian people in South Africa. When I grew up there, I spent the first 12 years of my life under apartheid. So we had servants, maids, cooks, gardeners, etc. And all of these people were Africans. They were Black people. And all of the Indians in South Africa had servants. Okay, they were all black. Now, how were these servants treated? They were treated as subhuman. They were not considered to be human beings with feelings. They drank out of different cups. So Indian people would not share their table with the servants who were an integral part of their household. They took care of their children. They drove them everywhere. They cooked for them. But they had to eat off of separate dishes. They could not sit on the furniture. They, if, say, for example, when we left our home and we traveled, so we lived in Pietermaritzburg, we traveled to Durban on the weekends, holidays, whatever. Our maid would come with us. She was not allowed to sleep on or sit on our furniture or sleep on our furniture, so she had to sleep on the floor. These are things that all Indian people did in South Africa. And now I'm just talking about South Africa. I'm not talking about, say, when Indian people immigrate to other countries. But this is true even in first generation Indians. Because, say, if an Indian person had to marry a black person, 9 times out of 10, that Indian person's family is going to completely disown the Indian person who married a black person. Now, Indian people generally, they want Indian people to marry within their, they want Indian people to marry other Indian people. And then they even go into like, well, they want, the same caste, and they even have subcastes and all of this stuff. So, but if an Indian person marries a white person or say an Asian person, it's not considered to be as heinous of an act as if an Indian person married a black person. So this can be tied to the caste system because, like I mentioned in my previous video, Indian people are racist towards other Indian people. And some of this is based on skin color. It's not entirely based on skin color, but there is a factor that is, that is apparent in that. So Ava DuVernay made a movie called Origin, and it's based on Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste, which somebody just pointed out. And it's very difficult for me to talk about these very heavy topics in 10 minutes. So I can't cover everything, but Indian people are inherently racist as a culture and as a society. And then within that racism, there is a hierarchy. So yes, while an Indian society might be racist towards Western people, Western culture, white people, etc., just like Vivek Ramaswamy making that comment about how, he made all these disparaging comments about, Americans. And he was talking about white Americans, how they're not as smart and blah, blah, blah. These are not uncommon things that Indian people say within themselves. I have been privy to these conversations in whether it's, say a friend situation or families or extended families or just in my Indian community. These are very common beliefs that most all Indian people will espouse. They will say things like, well, white people have no culture. Their food is horrible. They just go on and on and on. But when it comes to black people specifically, Indian people have extremely racist views about black people. And it doesn't matter how nice this black person is, how educated they might be. None of those things matter. And that's why I say that a lot of Indian people, they align themselves with a very far right-wing kind of Trump ideology. So you might take somebody from, say, America who is a Trumpster, and they espouse all these very racist views. And you could take an Indian person, and in many respects, those views are going to align because Indian people generally tend to hold very racist views. It goes back to the caste system, yes, but it also ties into other aspects. because as I pointed out before, you know, there are the so-called untouchables in India, and Indian people are racist towards them as well. So this is all a very, these are complicated things, and I'm just trying to do my best to share these ideas because we are in terrible times right now in the United States and in the world generally. So yeah, so I guess Indian people, if you guys want to come for me, come for me. I am not saying anything that's untrue. This is the truth, and I think it's kind of an open secret. Hi, guys. So, I've been reading through some of my comments from the video I made about anti Black racism specifically within the Indian community. It still remains one of my most watched video. I'm new to TikTok, so I only just started my channel, and I've been getting a lot of comments that are similar to the one that you see on the screen. Now, this comment says, I'm really tired. We blacks are hated everywhere, and we're just tired. And I just really felt the weariness of that comment. I really just felt it. And I received a lot of comments like this that were some variation of it. So I just want to first of all acknowledge that racism does place a very heavy weight on people's lives, on their minds, their hearts, their psyches. And, depending on what kind of racism it is, it can really destroy so much of a person's spirit. So when I made that video, it was not with the intention of adding more weight to the burden of race and racism and hate in this world. I made that video within the context of why do so many Indian people support Trump? And my opinion, from what I know, from what I have lived, from what I have experienced, from what I've read, is the conclusion I came to is that a lot of Indian people support Trump because they align with right-wing ideologies. So Hindu fascism is a thing. I don't know how far it goes back, but there's a lot of documentation about it. And just take, for example, the caste system, which goes back 2,000 years. Well, it is no leap now to say, yeah, I can see that Indian people are racist. I can see that they are sexist. I can see that, there's a hierarchy, and this hierarchy is very rigid. So let me just say that, you know, in terms of the right wing ideologies, Indian women get treated really badly as well. And Indian people also treat their own people really badly based on numerous factors, based on skin color, based on caste, based on, religion. There's a lot of animosity and hatred from the Hindus to the Muslims, and then vice versa. It's a really class-based system, which is, the caste system is class, but it's also so much more. Now, I've also been asked, hey, can you tell us what exactly Indian people, what do they say? What kinds of things do they say? Can you be more specific? And I got a few of those comments as well. Now, I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of it because I honestly don't think that would be contributing anything positive to the dialogue. It's just like, if somebody is racist towards me, because I've experienced a lot of racism, I've experienced even more sexism, starting from within my own family, because girls and women in Indian culture are treated abhorrently. They are treated as, in a lot of instances, less than the value of a cow. sad to say, but it's true. So when people hold these views towards me, it's not really going to help me to know what exactly they are saying. All I need to know is that they are operating from a space of lack and fear, and it says more about them than it does about me. Now, there is an interview that Toni Morrison, the great, brilliant Toni Morrison, gave with Charlie Rose, I believe. And he was, asking her these questions about race and racism, etc. And she so eloquently stated, if somebody else has to have me on my knees so that they can feel big and tall and strong, so that they can feel good about themselves, well, then that's a problem that they need to solve. She said, take me out of the equation. Like, just remove me out of that equation. That's something that you need to deal with. Like that, the person who is being racist. That's a problem that they need to deal with. It's not her problem to deal with. And that stayed with me. And I do think that that is true. Now, for me personally, I have experienced more sexism and misogyny than I have racism, although I have experienced both. And I find that the best way to navigate it is to come to the understanding that these beliefs are fueled from a sense of lack and disempowerment in the person holding those beliefs. It's no reflection on me at all, which doesn't mean I'm going to tolerate bad behavior. It just means that I'm not going to take their burden onto myself. I'm not going to take their burden of racism and sexism onto me. And, when we talk about Indians adhering to right-wing ideologies, I'm going to talk about my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, for 1 second here. So, we grew up in South Africa, so she was pulled out of school at a very young age. Like, it might have been like standard 2 or standard 3. So for North Americans, that would be grade 3, grade 4, around that age. She was not educated very much at all, because in my lineage, it was believed that for girls to go to school, that would be, it's a waste of time. She got married at the age of 15. So why would she need to go to school? She was pulled out and she was taught how to, I don't know, do whatever it was she was taught how to do. So, it doesn't matter that she didn't read the Vedas and the Upanishads and she knew nothing about Manu's laws. But I could see in my lineage, I can see now that all of those things were operating, Manu's laws were operating in my grandmother's life, in my great-grandmother's life, because it was passed down through belief system rather than formal education. Like, nobody taught her about the caste system. It's an inherent belief that, you're just indoctrinated with this belief from the time you are, you're a child. And then you go on and it just gets passed down through the generations. So getting back to this comment and comments like this, it was not my intention to add to the weight of racism. It was not meant to be a microaggression or to fuel any type of racial animosity. It was to shine a light on a specific issue that I was talking about, which is why do so many Indian people support Trump? And it's because they align with his right-wing ideologies. So yeah, I hope that clears some of this up, and thanks for watching. How is Indian people and anti-black racism specifically?
Dark Chocolate Soul Brother #1, and I want to comment on this video that this lady made about the black racism at the hands of Indian people. Indian people don't like black people and probably call us all out of name and think we ain't about shit. But it's okay. You know what? It's fine. Because we stay in our lane. We don't worry about other races and ethnicities because we already know nobody likes us. Nobody does. Very small amount of white people. Very small amount of Mexican folks. Very small, very, very, very small amount of Asian folks. Now, we already know Indian people don't like us. But you know what? It's alright though. Because y'all didn't make us, so y'all can't break us. That's all it is to it. I really don't give a shit. You know, I stay in my lane. You know, I know about how the treatment of black people are at the hands of Indian folks. I've seen it. I've dealt with it. But we ain't losing no sleep over it. We're going to continue to do what we do. That's what we going to do. You know, nobody likes a black man or black woman. They hate black people. We've been treated like that for centuries. But again, we ain't losing no sleep. We're going to keep pushing. We are resilient people. You can't break us. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to still be wild. And we still going to be stomping. You know? Bottom line is, if you ain't doing shit, people ain't going to be talking shit. That's the bottom line. So, if you think I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Post your comments. And with that being said, I'm your gracious host. I'm the dark one. Dark chocolate soul brother #1. And I'm out. Fade to black.
Indian people and anti-black racism.
Story time. Some years back, in the middle of the night, I responded to a call in which an Indian man who owned a very seedy motel in a very seedy part of town was assaulted and robbed. And while I was checking and treating the man who was assaulted and robbed, the police was trying to ask this individual a bunch of questions. His daughter was there, and naturally, she was distraught and she was crying and she was upset about what happened to her father. We all could agree with that. But what struck a chord with me and the black female officer who was doing the investigation at that time on that scene was something that the daughter said when she was on the phone with her family talking about what happened to her father. The daughter said to whoever was on the other end of that phone that 2 collars beat up her father. And this police officer and I, who by this time, we were on several scenes together and we were kind of friends or whatever at this time, we just both gave each other this look like, what the fuck did she just say? So we step outside the ambulance and we go talk to each other for a second. And she asked me, did you hear what I just heard? And I said, yeah, I just heard what you heard. And I said, when I see you again, I'm going to tell you exactly what that means. So I leave the firehouse that morning and go straight home. And when I go straight home, I go to my computer and I look up what collar means. But the way I did it, I went and looked up racial slurs in every language, but in particular in Hindi. And sure enough, the word is a derogatory word for black people. Now, it has multiple meanings, but one of those is a derogatory name for black people. Now, I was already somewhat aware of the fact that a lot of South Asians, Indians in particular, held very anti-black sentiments and beliefs. And honestly, there's a lot of reasons for this. One thing is, I rarely see South Asians hanging around with black folks. Just something I don't see that often. And like my boy, Island Boy Pundit was saying, a lot of Indian women are pretty as fuck, for real. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just saying. But a lot of black men cannot touch them. And I asked an Indian woman if someone like me would be able to go out with an Indian woman. And she just flat out told me, for the most part, no, it can't happen. And when I asked her why, she told me the reason why. She told me that a lot of Indian women could be unalived by their family for being with a black person. And the other thing that we have to consider is that a lot of Indian Americans, or even Indians here on visas and green cards and whatnot, they really want to be a part of successful business ventures. And the business community is very, very, very conservative. I remember going into a multi-level marketing scheme when I was young. And me and a charter bus full of people traveled all the way to the east coast of the country to attend some sort of conference or convention or whatever for this multi-level marketing company. And when we got there, there was no seminars or anything like that. It was just one big Republican pep rally. But what I remembered is that this arena was disproportionately filled with Indian Americans, or again, Indian people here on a visa or a green card. And the level of blind, cultish devotion to these business leaders, the people that are running these businesses, was astounding. Every time a speaker would come up, these people would rush the stage, knocking down barriers and everything just to be at the front of the stage. It was weird as fuck. My ex-wife and I couldn't wait to get out of that situation. It felt so cultish. The name of the game is status and wealth. And if adopting a white conservative way of thinking and the anti-blackness that comes with that is a part of that, then so be it. That's just the way things are. But yeah, we've been knowing this and kind of peeping this for a long time. This is nothing new for us. You know, you're not telling us something that we don't already know. But anyway, that's my rant. Please like, please follow, and y'all be peace.
Morning, guys. So I spent the better part of this morning having a conversation in my messages with a South African Indian lady. Now, since I made my video about anti-black racism, specifically in the Indian community, I have been receiving a lot of comments, largely by South African Indians, from what I can understand. And basically, a lot of these comments are vitriolic, they're hateful, they're not rooted in reality, and furthermore, they are accusing me of inciting racial hatred and violence in South Africa. Now, I have an extremely small TikTok account. I don't even have 3,000 followers. The video that I made was in a context of why do so many Indian people support Trump. So I made a couple of videos before that one, and I made a couple after that one. Another thing is, I cannot speak to what is going on in present day South Africa. I was a kid, I grew up under apartheid, And we immigrated to Canada when I was about 12 or 13 years old. It was not my decision to immigrate. I had no say in the matter. My parents decided to immigrate and they did not consult with me. So, you know, I'm just getting all these really unhinged comments. So I guess my first question would be to South African Indians is perhaps you guys should open up a dialogue on promoting racial harmony. Perhaps you guys should make videos about it. What is it like living in present day South Africa? What are the race relations like? How do Indian people feel about the history of the country? Etc., etc. I cannot make those videos because I do not live in South Africa. We left when I was 12. So, what I am speaking about are my experiences, not only in South Africa growing up under apartheid, but I'm also speaking about my experiences living in Canada and being a part of various communities of Indian people. I have had friends who are Indian. I have dated Indian guys. I have been parts of different Indian communities. And regardless of where they come from in the world, because Canada has a large Indian population from everywhere. So we have Fijians, Guyanese, Trinidadians, etc., etc. And then we also have people from India, from various parts of India. So there does seem to be a common theme with Indian people holding beliefs that are rooted in right-wing ideologies that are supported by a hatred of women, misogyny, and a discriminatory view on other people that is racially based. It is due to the caste system. So when I'm getting all these vitriolic comments like, well, there's racism everywhere and, blah, 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 and why am I talking about South Africa and, it's not like that anymore, etc., etc. Okay, well, I'm sure there is racism in a lot of different countries in the world, but I am talking about my experiences. I am not, somebody who grew up in a certain country and, experienced, say, racism in Europe or in Italy or whatever. I mean, I am an Indian woman, an Indian girl growing up under apartheid. So I am going to talk about what I know, what I experienced, what pertains to me, what interests me, what I can speak on. But to Indian South Africans, perhaps you should start these conversations. Perhaps you should start these videos. Perhaps you should open up dialogues with other races in South Africa, with, say, the Afrikaners, with, say, the different, racial groups that are in there, blacks, coloreds, etc. That is not for me to do. I do not live in South Africa. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like a lot of the comments that I'm getting, they are rooted in denial. And this particular lady that I was having a conversation with this morning in my comments section, from what I could gather, because she wouldn't answer the question fully, is that she supports Trump and she supports the GOP. Because, according to her, they have more common sense. And I ended the conversation right there. And I said, well, we have no further way to proceed in this conversation, because I personally am not going to have a conversation with people who support taking away my rights as a woman, as a visible minority, etc., etc. And I also don't support the homophobia, just the millions of things that are going on currently with the Trump administration. So no, there is nothing to talk about, because we obviously don't share the same ideologies, and we don't share the same values. So I am not going to waste my time trying to talk to somebody who is okay and supports me having my human rights stripped away from me. I am not going to do that. Now, if that person wants to do that, that's fine. But this person responded to me with a very vitriolic statement, you know, saying that because I don't want to talk to somebody who has different values than me, then you know, I'm hateful and vitriolic and I want to kill everybody. I'm like, wow, that's like a big leap over there, but perhaps that says something more about your state of mind than mine. I never said such things. I don't even think any of those things. However, I do know that, you know, if I have radically different values from somebody else, there is no point in me having a conversation with them. I don't have to do that. And furthermore, it's just a waste of my time and energy. So, yeah, to all the Indian South Africans, I'm talking about my experiences, which I have every right to do. They are valid, they are true. And, you know, I think that you guys should start making videos, and you guys should open up dialogues with different, you know, communities wherever you live and post them online. You know, that's a great way to start a dialogue. I'm sure there are lots of other ways to do it, but attacking me for speaking my truth is not going to solve anything, because basically what the feeling I'm getting is like you guys are just telling me, well, just don't talk about your experiences. Don't talk about, you know, the reality of what I've gone through, what I know, what I've been privy to, all these different conversations. And I'm talking about it. And I haven't even started talking about the way Indian societies treat women, but I am going to do that as well. So, yeah. Yep. That's what I think that you guys need to do instead of sending me these hateful comments.
Welcome back. Now, you have seen the video of this lady, an Indian, I think she's an Indian American. I think she has lived in South Africa, and she's talking about the anti-blackness in the Indian society. And it's something that is happening all along, happening within Indians community. You know, we have black Indians, we have white Indians, and how even black Indians have been treated. They always come out here and they complain about it. They complain about how the Indians are not or the white Indians, they treat black Indians just like Latinos and Afro-Latinos, how the treatment we get. And about that we have seen that even in Kenya. I've come across it. I've come across a racist alteration, or being called with racist words from Indian. More so when you are working for them. So when you are working for them, so I can understand what this lady is trying to say. And one thing I always say, she's Indian. She has come out, she has spoke about it, and she has just revealed the secrets of Indians, some of the Indians, and what they do in the black community, how they see black community. And black community have been treated in different way for a long time with different communities. You know, when you see how Latinos treat their black community and other black people in America, is so different. When you see how white people have been treating in a black community, so different. White Indians, how they have been treating black people, so different. So the way black people, or the life of a black person, the life of a black person in the society, sometimes we face a lot of things. And I just saw videos where some Indians too are saying even the black people are so racist towards them. But I have seen this video of this lady, and I've thought of a lot of things as black people. One thing that is making black people to be seen as inferiors in the society, one thing is we are not united. The disunity within black community speaks volumes, because as black people, first, we cannot support our own. As black people, we cannot propose our own. Maybe you have get job opportunities, they want someone else, they are looking for someone else, and you are taking this, your black brother. It is, you know, it is like that. But these other communities who think of black people the way they want to think, they are so much united. You know, when you see when you talk about the Indians, they are so united, and they have this strong bond. Whenever they are somewhere in a place, maybe in Uganda, in Kenya, in Tanzania, and they will call their fellow Indians to come and join them, you know, to work there. So that makes them have this strength, and it makes them to think otherwise on black people. But when we talk about Indians in South Africa, you know, when I hear about Indians in South Africa being racist towards black people, sometimes I think, why? Because you are in a black country, but you have that guts to be racist towards the people in that country. I'll talk on my example. We have Indians in Kenya, a lot of them. And me as a black person, maybe I'm working for you, Indian in my country, but you have that guts to be racist towards me in my country. That needs a lot of guts and a lot of, you know, you are unfearing. You don't fear anything. And things that is giving them these guts is because they know they have come here, they have conquered, and they have support from the government, and they know that we cannot do without them because we need them to eat, we need them to have some money because we are working for them. So they can talk anyhowly, they can do anything they want to do, and to black family or black society. And that's why I was talking about the unity of black people. Because once black people are united, once we are strong, once we are the one at the top, it's so hard for someone below you to look at you in other perspective. They will always respect you. But we as black people, we cannot gain respect from other society because they see that we do not deserve that respect. They are the one who are making sure that we as black people, we are surviving. We are dealing with our governments, you know. The governments have given them another tribe, you know. So they are everywhere and they conquer because they have that unity and they have that wealth gap between them and black people. And one thing that's making two black people to be looked down is because of this wealth gap that there is between these other races and us. When you look at white Indians and Africans, you may see there is a different, maybe there is a wealth gap in between. And this wealth gap, it's giving power. You know, people have power because of money. The white people are looking down to black people because they have power. And this power is making us as black people, whenever we came across them, we worship them. We see white people, we think they are small gods. So Indian people or African people need to work together so that we can achieve this respect, we can achieve the strength and the ability to fight for ourselves. Because it's like black people, we cannot fight for ourselves, we cannot stand for the justice, and we have accepted the situation that we have to work for other races, we have to work for Indians, we have to work for white people, you know, and that's one of the things that is putting us down as black people. And I have to say this, our ancestors had respect, so much respect, because back then black people were the founder or are the founder of the earth, as of the human being. Black people, they are the one who have invented a lot of things. So we need to find ways so that we can preserve our respect as black people. We need to find ways so that we can become or we can have this unity and we can be great again. And that's why when I see these fights of black Americans, Africans, fights of Afro-Latinos and Latinos, you know, how they quarrel on social media, who is greater than the other, or when I see the fight of black people, Africans and black Americans, this is reducing our respect and it's taking us back to those days where it's like we are living in slavery and we are the one who are enslaving ourselves, okay? So the video you have just watched, I think it will just open some mind to some of the people, and when you watch these videos, I think something comes to your mind that we as black people need to be, you know, to take back our seat, because we are the face of the earth as black people. So we need to reclaim that. So tell me what you think on the comment section about this video. Until next episode, peace out.